All right, so good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. This is Twist Gaming, where you get to play board games with us. We're coming to you live here from Gen Con 2019, bringing you all the board game coverage all week long. As usual, I'm your host, Matt, and I'm joined now with Dan. How you doing today, Dan?
I'm good, thanks,
Dan
Matt.
from Intrepid Games.
Thank you very much.
So, Dan, first and foremost, how's the con treating you so far?
Amazing. It's so far been like pretty crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Just getting from one side of the hall to the other has been a challenge, and that the energy in the hall is just fantastic.
Yeah, there's definitely a buzz, and we haven't been down to the hall today, but from previous years' experience, and then I saw a couple pictures online of just how many people were waiting to get in
Yeah, yeah,
on day one. It's crazy, but it's fun. It's something else.
yeah. It's this is like our first Gen Con, so exhibiting our game Lander, and from here, this is also my first ever streaming interview.
Oh, well, welcome.
So, woo!
Oh, well, hope that it's a good experience for you.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be.
So let's just jump right into things then. So you brought Lander to show off to us today.
Yes.
And we spoke a little bit yesterday. Lander is something you've been working on for quite some time now.
Yeah.
So 4 years-ish?
Yeah, about 4.5 years.
Wow.
And we've been doing this around our day jobs. So
That's how it goes, yeah.
that's how it goes. This is our first game that we're bringing out.
So where did it begin for you? What was the onus or the beginning of Lander?
Okay, so my friend Charles, it was Boxing Day, and we were going round to his parents' house for a game of Catan.
Mm-hmm.
And with it being the day after Christmas, we were in a situation that his parents were like, "Yeah, we don't feel like it today after yesterday."
Yeah.
And there we were, the two of us, sat in his living room, surrounded by like our favorite board games, none of which we could play because they all require 3 players or more.
Of course.
And he just turns to me and says, "Should we make a game?" To which I responded, "Okay." And that was the beginning of the journey. And out came the pieces of paper and the colored pens and pencils.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'd like gone from where I live now back home to the family home, and he lives there,
Mm-hmm.
we'd had a game of Risk Legacy, I think the week before, and I had the largest army that I'd ever amassed in a game of Risk ever,
Mm-hmm.
and it left my go, and before it got back to me, I was eliminated. I rolled the worst dice, like statistically the worst dice. I didn't even think it was possible.
I can sympathize with that. I've definitely been in that spot before.
So Charles asked me, what should we like have in our game? What rules should we have? To which I kind of like screamed, "No dice!" Like that was the first rule of Lander. No, and from there, these questions like continued.
What components, what mechanisms?
And
all
we
of that,
we
yeah.
basically had all of our favorite games around. So we're like, what do we like about that game? What do we like about Lander is basically like we got our favorite games,
Mhm.
put them in a bucket, got a big spoon and mixed them all around, and there we go.
All right. So what mechanisms does Lander utilize? What kind of game is Lander at its core?
It's actually several games at its core
Okay.
because it has multiple elements. And one of the interesting things is that when I've discussed it with various people, they're like, surely those things don't work together. And I don't know, there's a bit of magic dust in there, and they really do. So we've got this set up. So from the box, one of the key things that we have is that the idea is that we're on a planet, and we've come in. We're colonizing the first planet outside of our solar system, known to have water on its surface. And a main ship has left Earth with 5,000 pioneers on it, and there's a forward landing craft,
Okay.
affectionately called the Lander.
Ah, there you go.
As the ship comes in, its mission is to set up the planet for the arrival of the main ship, like serving as a beachhead.
Mhm.
And as it comes in, crash lands, half the crew die.
Oh.
And this is where your story begins.
Oh, so it's starting off on a real positive note then.
Yeah. So what we have here is the center hex,
Mhm.
and from this position we have the crash site, and we start to explore the land around the crash site. And the game is made up, or the game board is made up of these tiles that represent the dominant land use around where we've crash landed.
Okay, so we've got this center hexagon, and we've got these triangles that all branch off of that and interlock with each other. So,
Yeah.
final copy of the game, we're going to have these plastic interlocking pieces, not just your standard
Yes.
cardboard punch board.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a special design that has taken a good amount of time to refine. And the idea being that when you actually start to claim these sectors on the planet, usually you would have a full ring. I won't show you for the time in the interview, but the board will grow as you play. And one of the key influences being Catan in the game is that if you've ever had a game of Catan and you have all your cardboard pieces and your hex and all of your things, and you just want to move it,
everything blows up. Yeah.
So because of Catan's brilliance and how much we loved it, it's a huge inspiration. But because of its little flaws,
you wanted to improve upon those.
You can put your finger and you can move the whole game board in any direction, depending on what size it is.
So you're doing it from the perspective of, you want to move the board around. I'm clumsy, and I will invariably smack the board game at some point in time and send everything flying. So that's nice for people like me as well.
So the fact that we have gone to the design understanding of having these sunken, so that when you put it in, the piece kind of sits in that. It means that if you knock it, maybe a piece falls, but mostly the whole thing will stay together.
Right.
And I guess what we've tried to do is make the game for you, the player. And because we are passionate about board games and we love them and all of the things that we've found to be the annoyances, we've tried to cover off with thought and design, and that's what's taken 4.5 years to perfect, if you like.
Right.
And to this end, we can have a look at the box. So when you play games, a lot of the time you've got to take out loads of pieces and so on and so forth and set the table up. Well, you want to set the table up in Lander. The box facilitates the gameplay and the game setup.
So we've got inserts in the box where everything's nice and organized. We don't clean up and set up. Pretty easy.
So all of these things now are in a state whereby this is in their start of game setup state. And you can start the game from this moment whereby you'd start dealing cards and so on and so forth.
So 2-minute setup, not 20-minute setup.
Something along those lines. But we've actually made the game in a number of different game designs, game styles, and the different game styles were heavily influenced from going to our first Games Expo, and that was the UK Games Expo in Birmingham in June of 2017.
Okay. And
what happened was, in our complete naivety, having none of us had been to a board game expo before, the full Lander experience is 50 minutes per player. So there we were, ha ha ha, hey, come and join us for a game. How long is it? Was a question that we keep hearing. And 50 minutes. No, man, I'm at an expo. I've got more stuff to do than play your game all that time.
Everyone wants a 5-minute demo. Yeah.
So on the fly, within about 15 minutes of this happening over an hour, we made a version of the game whereby we stripped out loads of stuff and just kind of played it. And on the back of the expo, we actually did a load of research into how do people play games. One of the key things is that they will choose games on how long it takes to play.
Oh, absolutely.
Which we didn't know at the time, but if you're a budding board game designer, focusing on a game time is really a big thing that we found.
Yeah, especially as you get older, and when you realize that life doesn't permit you to play games as often as you like. You say, I've got an hour and a half where I'm going to be able to fit a game in. I can't fit a 2-hour game.
Yeah,
in here,
exactly. So what we did was we actually focused on this is the game, and not only did we have this thing with time, but also different people are at different levels of board gamer. So we've focused the game into a basic simulation, which is 20 minutes per player, and we've basically stripped out the decision points within the game.
Okay.
It's quick at 20 minutes per player, and easy.
So you remove a little bit of the analysis paralysis too that people get by removing some of those.
Yes.
Those other decision points.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
We have a situation whereby there's an intermediate level of the game, which we call early arrival. and this is 30 minutes per player. So once you've played the basic simulation once or twice, you should kind of know what's going on. When you step up, the win condition is different.
Oh, okay.
And you go from the first player to achieve 7 stars in the basic simulation to the first player to achieve 10 mission stars ends that year, which is the round. So you might be the player that gets the 10, but somebody else might finish the year on 11 or 12, and they would win.
Right.
And then we go up to the full Lander experience, which is 50 minutes per player. And this is just the most mission stars that all players can achieve in 5 set years. And from the beginning of the game, because you know when it's going to end, you can plan everything accordingly.
Oh, okay. So you can have things triggered during certain times because you know the length of the game that you're going to be getting.
Yeah. So in the first 2 games, they play more like a race. All players are racing to the end. In the planned arrival, there are many paths to victory from the perspective of there are so many options that you have in the game. There's no one way to win.
Oh, that's really cool. But yeah, that's definitely like I like that you have like the introductory version, if you will, and then leading up to the more complex ones. And that's one of the things that we like with Twist Gaming here is that we've actually, the 3 of us that are part of it, we've got very different levels of experience with board games, and so we tend to pick up games quickly. But at the same time, it's nice to see the games where you can kind of go in with no knowledge, little to no knowledge of it, and be able to pick it up and have a good time and not feel overwhelmed at it as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what we do when we add in this extra level of detail is that there's a whole event deck, and these cards are designed to, because there's no dice, these are the things that when you're on a new planet, all of these random variables are going to happen to you. In terms of the design of the events, we have a situation whereby you get to make a choice. So you have the ability to choose between these 2 construction options, and this is just for you. So you may complete a construction mission for 2 fewer energy this round, or for 2 fewer titanium. There are events which are focused on just you, or events which are all players. So maybe that happens.
All right, so then mutiny this one here.
And when we say that your story begins here in Lander, what you'll find is because of the flavor text that we've put on the event cards, the mission cards, you can play action cards against each other, so there's a huge amount of player interaction. You're in a situation where it's an experience, and when you play it through, what we commonly find is that you talk about the game as like afterwards.
So you're crafting like your own story of this civilization that you created
as you're going through. So the game finishes, and then there's this whole like everyone's excited, analyzing what went on, what I'm going to do differently next time, and all that kind of stuff. So
oh yeah, that's we're huge proponents of flavor text in games, so I definitely love that, and then seeing that even if it's not in your face on the card, even if it's just very subtle. Like a little blurb on the bottom, or just the way things are laid out. It definitely adds to the depth and the feel of the game itself.
So one of the things that people tell me that they love is the crew. And what we've done is design the game so that we have 50 unique crew members, all with their own leadership ability. So from this point, the crew are divided into operations, engineering, and science. And each one of the crew has their own leadership ability. Now, the cards that you're seeing here are the previous prototype, because currently all of our actual copies that have just come hot off the press are in Gen Con being played right now.
I don't blame you.
So this is just brought so that you can get a feel for what we're doing. But this crew, because they are real people, and yes, I did randomly go up to strangers and go, "Hey, do you want to be on my board game?"
I was gonna say, are these random people, or are they potential like Kickstarter backers or something like that down the road?
One of the things that we really wanted to do is promote this idea of equality. So there are 30 men, 30 women.
Okay.
There's full, they come from all over the world. So there's a whole ethnic diversity, and we wanted the crew to be real. I don't know how else to say it.
Not models.
Exactly. So what we find is that because we've gone to the idea of making their leadership ability fit with their class, fit with how they look, they become real people.
Mm-hmm.
And as such, when you've played a few games of it, you start to like genuinely fall in love with certain crew members. So something that might happen is that, let's say that there's a 3 or a 4 player game,
Mm-hmm.
and it just leaves me, and for example, let's say that Josh buys a crew member, and I know that in the last couple of games that I've used them, they help me win the game, like, and I love that crew member.
Mm-hmm.
So now, like, sweat starts to form on my brow, and I'm like, what is gonna happen? Like, please, like, don't buy them, don't buy them, don't buy them. And Josh is like, I'm going for a training card. I was like, oh. But obviously, you have to have like a completely poker face, right?
Yeah.
And then player here is like, oh, what's gonna do? What's gonna do? And they've done an upgrade, and you're like, oh. And then I'm just looking at you and like, have you seen that if you get them, you can complete the mission? And like your heart starts beating, and you're thinking, like, please, 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 like, just do not, Matt, do not buy this crew member. And like everything, I'm like using the force here. I'm willing you, do not get this crew member. And you just casually go, I'm just completing your mission.
Oh.
And I'm like, yes, yes, I'm going to win. I've got the crew member, yes. And you just, hang on. Now you've gone in the lead. Right, okay, so what's going to happen here?
Strategy on the fly.
So I'm just going to kind of go, oh yeah, I'm just going to get this crew member. And then I'm in my head, it's like, yeah, don't stop me. And then Josh plays a kill card and kills her.
Yep, that sounds, you know Josh well. That's exactly.
So the emotion that you have in the game
Mm-hmm.
is just this wonderful roller coaster that not only are you playing a strategy game, not only is there all of this variation, but you're telling a story, and you really get invested in like what's going on in the characters, to the degree that one of the most common things that I hear when people have finished playing the game is something along the lines of, when can we play this again?
That's always the best when you get that response. And I'm really excited because I get to ask you that question, and I know the answer to it. So I know we're going to get to play this game on Sunday.
Yeah.
So we've got a spotlight section set up with you. So we're going to do a full playthrough of Lander live on stream. So for any of our viewers watching right now, definitely tune in for that. You're going to get a chance to take a sneak peek at the game. Watch us play, see how we interact with it. We'll do a little first impression review of it as well. But you're also doing something really interesting as well, where for our viewers that are watching, that maybe they are looking at backing the Kickstarter, they're on the fence and they want to see if they like the game first. You're doing something really cool here, and I'd like to give you a few minutes to talk about that as well.
Great, thank you very much. Yeah, so one of the things that we identified, so I started making the game with my friend Charles, and we did that for pretty much 2 years exactly. And the conversation was along the line of, we played it with a couple of friends, and they were stunned. They were like, this is so good, guys. You've got to make this. My philosophy was I wanted to bring it to the world. Charles didn't want to go down the route of commercializing it and all of the like work that goes along with it.
It's
to
a lot
take
of work.
it to take it from pieces of paper and what have you to this. Like,
Mm.
so I asked my friend Sean to come on board, and he has the guy that's now kind of, we're calling him the executive producer. He's the guy behind the background that's done a lot of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And at this moment in time, we were talking in detail about where we wanted to go with this. And a lot of Kickstarters now are coming in, at the $100 mark is fairly common.
Mm-hmm.
And this is because the industry is demanding more, like, better quality games.
Absolutely, yeah.
The components, everything needs to be to a certain standard these days, artwork and so on and so forth. And because most people don't have just $100 to drop on 5 games every week, we just were like, well, surely people should be able to play the games before they go to Kickstarter. It was a very simple conversation, but the ramifications were such. Why doesn't it happen? And the manufacturers themselves have minimum order quantities, 500 to 1,000 units, and this is too much for us to afford.
Absolutely, right up front.
And
yeah.
that's why the industry doesn't do it. So my day job allows me to travel around the world. I had some air miles. I flew to China. I met some manufacturers, and I told them my view. And the vision was, look, I need you to help me and make 100 and so copies of the game.
So a smaller order quantity of them, yeah.
And then the plan would be to send these to board game cafes and stores all around the English-speaking parts of the world, because the game is text-heavy in English.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to drive people in to support their local store and specifically play before you pledge. So we, as of the 12th of August, all of the copies will be in place all around the world. So in 11 days' time, you'll be able to go into your local board game venue,
Mm-hmm.
and from that point actually get a copy of Lander, play it, see how you feel about it. Because our experience with board games is they're like music. You might love it, I might hate it, and so on and so forth.
Everyone's got their own cup of tea, if you
Right.
will, yeah.
So we want the industry to be able to enjoy that, and we also feel like board game venues themselves could be these hubs of excitement globally. There's a new big game coming out on Kickstarter. Let's go and rush to our board game,
Try it out.
and we can support the brick and mortar stores as well as the Kickstarter. And the plan is, maybe we can kind of bring the board gaming world closer together.
Right, and drive the community towards this action as well. I think that's a really cool idea.
So the Play Before You Pledge is on our website, www.landerthegame.com/play-before-you-pledge. And from that perspective, you can go and view the world map, find where you are, click on the little pin marker, and it will tell you the store. It gives you their address and their website, and so on and so forth.
Perfect. So, and then finally, last couple bits of information. When do you plan on going live on Kickstarter?
So we're going to go on Kickstarter in March 2020.
Mhm.
Within the first week of March is the plan.
So you're giving them a pretty good lead time to actually try the game out. In case you can't make it out right away, don't worry. This program will be going on for a little bit.
Exactly, and that's the idea, that rather than just kind of be like, oh, you can play it and then it's Kickstarter, we now have 7 months before it, and then potentially 8 with the Kickstarter, for you to be able to get out and see how you find the game.
Perfect. And then finally, where can our viewers go to find more information about Lander and everything else that you're doing with Intrepid Games?
So on our website, landerthegame.com.
Sounds good. Dan, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate you coming on. And
Thanks.
thank all of you for watching at home. Remember, again, we will be doing the spotlight for this game on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to be taking a brief intermission right now. We'll be back in just a few more moments to bring you more coverage here from Gen Con 2019. As usual, I'm Matt. Have a good one, everyone.